Hi everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to discuss about the traditional rack and the agentic rack. Also, what are the difference between these two things, rack and agentic rack? So, what is a rack? Rack stand for Retrieval-Augmented Generation. Retrieval, Retrieval-Augmented Generation. So, it's basically used in the Gen AI applications. Okay. So, first I'm going to draw here some kind of diagram. Let's take in here one shape. So this is nothing but a shape. So here we are simply going to give it to here one kind of users in the case of Jenny applications. So let's assume that this is of my users. So let's say this is one of my users and our user is sending one request or sending one prompt to our large language model. So I'm simply going to give it here one line. So here I'm going to pass here on prompt. Let's say prompt, or you can say as a query to our large language model so I'm simply going to creating here a box, and here I am simply going to say that this is nothing but my large language models. So it can be the llama, or it can be the Google Gemini, or it can be the OpenAI chat models. Okay, so this is the users. It's sending here one prompt to the large language model, and our large language model is giving here one kind of output. Now, what is the RAG actually? So RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. See, R means retrieval. That means it will try to retrieve something from the database. Something from the database. So why actually creating the RAG? RAG we actually using here in order to getting some access from our personal data, which one is not available in our large language model. So what you can do basically, we basically store it inside an database. Okay, inside an database. You can say that as a vector stored database. Okay, vector store database. So sometime the rack is also called as a librarian. Okay, because it will storing the data in the vector store database, and then it will retrieving the data based on the context, based on the context. So that's why it's called the knowledge base or the contextual base. So in our database we have about some kind of personal data. Let's say I'm going to give it here my YouTube data. Because I'm a YouTuber, so I am just going to pass here my YouTube data. I mean the video I created, I pass it to the DB, because the YouTube data is not available inside my large language model, because large language model is trained on some kind of book or in some kind of website, just like it can be the Wikipedia. Okay, so let's assume that YouTube data is my personal data, or we can also passing here any company data, which one is complete and secure data or protected data, which one is not available inside the large language model. So what actually user do? When user asks any questions related to my YouTube videos or related to the company, it will directly go to this DB. Okay, it will directly go to the DB and try to search something from here based on the context. Okay, try to retrieve something from the database, and after that it will give the context to the large language model. It will give the context to the large language model, and after that large language model give one summary, of the whole answers, whole questions to the answers that is asked by the users. So this is an complete rack. See, users is sending here an request to the DB, and DB is try to getting it and convert it to the context and pass it to the large language model. But the question is, without the large language model we can also do the retrieval or not? Yes, we can also do the retrieval. Now the why the large language model is coming to the picture, for the summarizations, so that it will give you one kind of better results, because we know that large language model is trained on vast amount of data in case of NLP. Okay, I mean the natural language processing. That's why it's better we can also combine here the large language model. See, we're retrieving the data from the database, from the vectors to database. So that's why it's called the RAG, retrieval augmented generators. So in the case of bacteria store, you can using here the files, or you can also using here the ChromaDB. There are so many vectors to database are actually available in the market. ChromaDB, also the StraDB. Okay, So this is nothing but one rack. That's when you can retrieve something from the database, which one is not available in your large language model. Now, what is the agentic rack? See, what is the agentic rack? See, the word called agentic, that's when it has some agent. So agent is nothing but built upon the large language model. Now let's see what is the agentic rack. So now let's see what is the agentic rack actually. Okay, the name suggests you can see agentic. That's it having some kind of agents. So I'm taking the same examples. I'm going to taking here a shape and I'm going to draw it here. Okay, and then I'm going to taking here another shape and I'm going to draw it to here, and then I'm going to creating here a line. So let's take in the tool and here is the line. So here user is going to give here one prompt to the large language model. Okay, so this is the users. So let's say this is the users. Okay, like that. Now let's say user is asking a questions based on my YouTube data. So I am simply going to remove this first because it's not needed at all right now. And after that, user is asking a question related to the YouTube data. So we having a data store, I mean our vector store database, let's say database one. So which one containing the data based on the YouTube, my YouTube data or my company data. Okay. Okay. Then I having another database, let's say DB2, which are the information about the free courses. Okay. And I have the another one, DB3. So it's containing here about the data about the paid courses. It's a paid course. Okay. Now user asking any questions based on my free courses. So what are the free courses are available by Knowledge Doctor? So what it actually do, it will try to finding the data from the databases. Okay, I mean vector stores. First it will go on here and searching for the free courses. It's not finding anything on here. Okay, then it will give it here the context. It's not finding anything else. Same thing for here. It will go here and as well as go here. So in the case of database tree, I mean vector tree database, it's not finding anything else. Okay. So in the case of DB2, it will getting here the free courses context. Okay. See, it will try to calling here agent for multiple times. See, multiple time. Okay, multiple time. So what if we having agents? So we have the agent which can controlling this control. I mean controlling this routing. See, one routing is happening. It will first go on here, then here. So now this job is done by one kind of agents, one kind of agent. So this agent is built for the free course. Let's say this is the agent number 2 and this paid course agent, let's say agent number 3, and this is the agent number 1. So see, we have some multiple number of agents. So if the route of the user is consisting of the free courses, is directly go to the DB number 2 and it will give the context to our large language model, and our large language model giving one output. See, we using here one kind of agents. That means first data is go to the agent, then agent is decided whether he can call the DB1, whether he call the DB2, or whether he call the DB3. So if the data or if the context or if the query is related to the free courses, it directly calling here the DB2. See, it will directly calling here the DB2. That's also one good choice. Okay. Now the question is, what if we passing all of the data to one single data store? So it can be possible, right? It can be possible. Let's say I'm going to passing here my YouTube data, the free courses, okay? I mean free course data as well as the paid course data in one single database or in a single data store. It can be also possible. So why should you creating here the multiple number of agent? Why? See, in case of rack, we just creating here one vector to database. And how are we passing here all of the informations? Now, in the case of agentic RAG, we're creating here different types of agents or different types of database. How are you storing here different types of informations? So in the case of agents, it's taking not much amount of time. That's mean it quite fast rather than this DB. I mean, rather than this traditional rack, as well as the accuracy of this agentic rack is quite high because it will just calling here the specific data store. I mean, database store, vector store, and it will give in the context. That's mean it is also taking, it's also the time consuming the rack, and the agentic rack is taking the less amount of time in case of the prompting or in case of answers. Okay, so this is the basic difference between the rack and the agentic rack, the rack and the agentic rack. So in the case of rack, we have the vector store database. In the case of agentic RAG, we have the multiple number of agent which can calling here different kind of tool. So I found here one block in the medium that is in my hand right now. So traditional RAG, it's called the librarian. Traditional RAG, it's also called the librarian. Let's say the librarian because it's nothing but likened to, it's likened to librarian who retrieve the relevant book based on the user request that you see on here. So based on the user request, it will finding the data from the database and it will combine this context to the large language model. So in the process, it follow here three things. One is called receive the query. See, receive the query and retrieve the informations and generate the response. So in the case of retrieve informations, it will retrieve from knowledge base. It can be the vector database are typically using here the vector search engine. It can be the ChromaDB, it can be the StarDB, or it can be the FICE. So in the case of agentic RAG, it also called the private investigator. Okay, in case of agentic RAG, it's also called the private investigator. That's investigator. So why it's called private investigator? Because agentic RAG, on the other hand, it's like a private investigator who not only find the relevant book, just like the RAG, but also it analyze their content, the cross preference informations, as well as the event conduct interview to gather additional insight. Okay, that's why it's quite accurate. Okay, it will first analyze the user query and plan a retrieval strategy. See, as an is try to planning here and retrieval strategy. It will go to the free course, or it will go to the YouTube data, or it will go to the paid course. And after that, it will taking one decision and passing to the large language model, so that our large language model also give it here one output in the case of summarizations. Okay, so that's why it will actually utilizing here different kind of tools. Okay, say db1, db2, db3, you can considering these tools. So there is a framework, or you can say you can also say the framework, free framework. It's called the N8N. So using this one, it's a no code framework. So using this one, you can creating here some kind of agentic rack. Okay, it's called no code framework. Okay, just like the LangChain, but LangChain is a code framework. It's a no code framework. So using this one, you can actually utilize here different kind of or various kind of tools. Okay, how I actually the Gen AI application using here different kind of tools. It's called the agentic rack. So it can be the websites. Okay, it can be the websites using the DuckDuckGo. Okay, DuckDuckGo, or it can be the calculator, or also it can be the API. Okay, in case of the agentic rack. Okay, so this is how the actually rack and the agentic rack actually work. I hope you understand the full concept. What is the rack and what is the basic difference between the agentic rack? So I will back with another tutorial. So till then, take care and bye bye.